Well, no more Halo. Things just got 10 times worse for DDG after Halle has just filed for full custody and stated that he can no longer be with the kid alone ever again. You see,
On May 14th, 2025, actress and singer Halle Bailey was granted a temporary restraining order against her ex-boyfriend, rapper and YouTuber DDG, Darryl Dwayne Granberry Jr., following allegations of physical, verbal, emotional, and financial abuse during and after their relationship. The couple, who began dating in early 2022 and welcomed a son, Halo, in December 2023, separated in October 2024. In court documents filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court, Bailey detailed multiple incidents of alleged abuse. One such incident occurred in January 2025 during a visitation exchange, where Bailey claims DDG physically assaulted her by pulling her hair and slamming her face into a steering wheel, resulting in a chipped tooth and bruises. Photographic evidence of these injuries was submitted to the court. Another reported incident took place in March 2025, when DDG allegedly entered Bailey's home without permission and sent her a photo from her bedroom, accompanied by a threatening message. Bailey also recounted an episode where DDG damaged her property and acted aggressively while she was holding their child. The restraining order mandates that DDG remain at least 100 yards away from Bailey and their son until a court hearing scheduled for June 6, 2025. Additionally, Bailey has requested sole legal and physical custody of Halo, proposing limited supervised visitation for DDG. She also seeks to prevent DDG from making public or social media comments about her, citing online harassment and threats from his followers. Bailey's legal filings express concern for her and her son's safety, stating, "I cannot allow this abuse any longer." She has also requested that DDG attend a 52-week batterer intervention program. As of now, there has been no public response from DDG or his representatives regarding these allegations. You scroll through your feed, and the story is impossible to ignore. Halle Bailey's court filings aren't just legal documents, they're emotional landmines. Details are surfacing by the hour, and one thing is clear: this isn't a misunderstanding or a messy breakup. This is a documented pattern of alleged abuse. In the restraining order request, Halle outlines a chilling series of events that paint a disturbing portrait of fear and control. One of the most talked about incidents? A confrontation during a visitation exchange where she claims DDG physically pulled her by the hair and slammed her face into a steering wheel. The injury? A chipped tooth. She even provided photographic evidence of the bruising and dental damage. The images are now making their way online, blurred for privacy, but unmistakably real. You watch the reaction unfold in real time. Some fans are stunned, others say they saw it coming. But what stands out most is how quickly the conversation turns from drama to accountability. This isn't celebrity gossip anymore. It's a safety issue, a custody issue, a wake-up call for how toxic relationships can spiral, even when wrapped in fame, fortune, and red carpets. And it gets darker. Another incident in March allegedly involved DDG breaking into Halle's home without permission, then sending her a photo from her own bedroom. He knew where she was. He knew she wasn't home. And the message he sent with the photo, described by Halle as threatening. You sit with that for a moment. The implication, the fear. And you wonder, how does someone go from partner to predator? What kind of mental toll does it take to keep smiling in public while living in private chaos? And now that this is public, will the world respond with empathy or apathy? Because Halle isn't just asking for a restraining order, she's asking to be heard. And for once, the world might finally be listening. Now the narrative shifts from disturbing allegations to urgent action. Halle Bailey's plea for safety has triggered more than headlines. It's triggered an emotional chain reaction. Fans, fellow artists, and survivors of domestic abuse are coming forward online, flooding social platforms with messages of support, disbelief, and shared experience. But behind the viral hashtags, there's something heavier building. In the official court documents, Halle reveals that her fear isn't just rooted in the past, it's in the present. She describes feeling unsafe during nearly every interaction with Dee post-breakup. And it's not just about her anymore. It's about Halo, their 1-year-old son. Halle writes that DDG acted aggressively while I was holding our child, a moment that left her shaken, not just as a woman, but as a mother. You pause on that detail. Because in celebrity breakups, the story usually ends at drama. But this is about protection, survival, parenting under pressure. What hits hardest is how she describes feeling watched, digitally and physically. From allegedly being tracked to receiving harassing messages and indirect threats, Halle claims that even social media hasn't been a safe space. That's why she's also requested a gag order, to stop DDG from mentioning her online and prevent his massive following from targeting her with threats and abuse. "I cannot allow this abuse any longer," she wrote. That single sentence echoes through the entire document like a warning bell, and you begin to ask yourself, how often do women have to exhaust every legal channel just to breathe freely? Why does it take bruises and police involvement for people to believe them? And when a mother says she's scared for her child, why isn't that enough? Because Halle Bailey isn't playing a role anymore. She's living a reality that no one, no matter how famous, should not have to fight through alone. The deeper you go into Halle Bailey's testimony, the more you realize this wasn't just a toxic breakup. It was a pattern of intimidation, escalation, and fear. And now, it's all spilling into the public eye, one gut-wrenching detail at a time. She describes an incident that stuck with her since it happened just weeks after their separation. She walked into her home and found signs someone had been there. A window left cracked, items slightly moved. Hours later, a photo arrived in her inbox. It was her bedroom, taken from inside, accompanied by a caption Halle describes as chilling. "He knew where I was, he knew I wasn't home," she said, "and he wanted me to know he could still get in." That isn't heartbreak, that's stalking, that's calculated fear. And what makes it worse? Halle claims she had already changed the locks, already cut off communication, but DDG allegedly found a way back in, physically and emotionally. Now the legal team representing Halle is pushing for more than just a temporary restraining order. They're requesting sole legal and physical custody of their son, a permanent gag order on all public and social references to Halle, mandatory enrollment for DDG in a 52-week batterer intervention program. They're not just trying to close a chapter, they're trying to stop a cycle. Meanwhile, DDG has yet to respond. No public statement, no denial, just silence. But it's a silence that's now being filled with voices everywhere. From fans, from domestic violence experts, from women who say Halle's story sounds too familiar to ignore. You ask yourself, how many red flags have to fly before people act? Why do women always need evidence before their pain is believed? And how many more gag orders will be needed just to get a moment of peace? Because this isn't just about a relationship gone wrong. It's about a woman finally drawing the line and daring the world to respect it. By now, the world is paying attention, not to rumors or blog speculation, but to a mother's fight for safety. Halle Bailey's court filing doesn't read like a PR move. It reads like a diary no one was ever meant to see, one that documents fear, betrayal, and a desperate attempt to protect her peace. In her words, she reveals the most painful part. Even while suffering abuse, she still tried to co-parent, still tried to make room for DDG to be in their son Halo's life. But time and time again, she says, those efforts were met with aggression and intimidation. There's one moment she describes that stands out. She was holding her child in her arms when DDG allegedly began yelling, pacing, and slamming objects. She says he damaged personal items and refused to calm down. Her biggest fear? That Halo, still a baby, would absorb the chaos, that the pattern would repeat itself in the next generation. "I realized I was no longer just scared for myself," she told the court. "I was scared for my son." You sit with that, because beyond the celebrity names, past the relationship drama, this is a mother being forced to explain to strangers why her baby deserves to grow up in peace. It shouldn't take a court order to create distance. It shouldn't take photos of bruises and chipped teeth for people to believe her. And yet, here we are. You see the court's temporary ruling. DDG must stay 100 yards away from Halle and Halo. No contact, direct or indirect, no social media commentary. It's a start, but Halle's legal team is already preparing for the next hearing on June 6th, where she'll push for full custody and permanent protection. And you wonder, how many more women are begging for boundaries that should already exist? Why do so many abuse stories start in silence and end in courtrooms? And if Halle Bailey, the star, the singer, the mother, has to fight this hard to be heard, what hope does the average woman have? Because this isn't about drama anymore. It's about survival. As the story unfolds, a new layer of silence sets in, the kind that feels strategic, not remorseful. DDG, who's never shied away from controversy or confrontation online, has gone completely quiet. No tweets, no live streams, no Instagram stories. And that silence? It's louder than any apology. Insiders close to DDG say he's lawyered up, preparing a response for the upcoming June 6th court hearing. But the damage, public and personal, is already spreading. Brands quietly distance themselves. Collabs he hinted at just weeks ago are suddenly on hold. Fellow influencers, some of whom once posted cute couple content with Halle and DDG, are deleting those clips. "This isn't entertainment anymore," one of them says in a now viral video. "This is someone's real life falling apart in public." Meanwhile, Halle is reportedly focused entirely on her son, staying out of the media storm despite every outlet in the country requesting an exclusive. Friends describe her as strong but exhausted. And who wouldn't be? Escaping alleged abuse and taking on a legal battle under the bright glare of fame. But through it all, she's not backing down. You can feel it. From her precise legal requests to her willingness to put everything on the record, Halle's not here for drama. She's here for safety, for dignity, for her child. And that's what makes this story different. Because in a world that often dismisses abuse allegations as messy breakups or clout chasing, Halle Bailey has approached this with receipts, restraint, and resolve. You ask yourself, if she hadn't spoken up, how long would the silence have lasted? How many people close to them knew and said nothing? And what does it say about our culture that women still have to come with proof just to protect themselves? Because if Halle Bailey's story doesn't shift how we treat abuse survivors, then we've learned nothing at all. And now, as the dust settles, at least temporarily, you're left with more than a headline. You're left with a question. What happens next? The restraining order is in place. The June 6th hearing is looming. DDG remains silent. But for Halle Bailey, this isn't over. It's not even halfway. This is the part no one glamorizes. The waiting, the healing, the hope that legal protections actually hold. She's requested sole legal and physical custody of Halo, a permanent restraining order, supervised, limited visitation for DDG enrollment in a batterer intervention program. And through it all, she's chosen not to scream, not to retaliate, not to feed the blog cycle. She let the evidence speak. She let the court documents speak. She let her silence carry more weight than 1,000 tweets ever could. But still, you can't shake the weight of it all. The bruises, the photo from her bedroom, the child caught in the middle, the quiet terror that probably played out in front of cameras, on red carpets, and in music videos, while the rest of us smiled at her filtered life. And now that the filter is off, we see it, all of it. You wonder, how many women are walking this same path without the spotlight to make the world care? How many are still being told, you need more proof? And how many stories are buried because people like DDG still have bigger platforms than their victims? Because no matter how this plays out in court, one thing is clear. Halle Bailey didn't leak this story. She lived it. And now she's rewriting it. For herself, for her son, and for every woman too afraid to speak until now. This isn't a scandal, it's a turning point.